I'm Deborah. Standing in my living room, I'm surrounded by the aftermath of a battle. Carol, my mother-in-law, is standing in front of me, her face a mask of shock and rage, while my husband, Ethan, looks on, torn between us. The air is thick with tension, and I know that everything has changed. It all started at a Sunday dinner at Carol's house. For the past 2 years, these dinners had become a weekly ordeal. Carol, a 60-year-old woman from an upper-class family, was the epitome of control and propriety. Her husband, Henry, a quiet and meek man, had learned to fade into the background in his own home. Ethan, my 32-year-old husband, worked as a software engineer and always tried to keep the peace. As we sat at the table, the smell of overcooked rosemary filled the air, a scent that had come to symbolize the simmering resentment in this house. Ethan was trying to lighten the mood by talking about a difficult client at work, but Carol cut him off mid-sentence. "Ethan, dear, don't talk about work at the table. It's so dull. Let's talk about something more pleasant." Then her cold, calculating eyes landed on me. "Deborah, I was just telling my friend Emily how well you fit into our family. You're like a real daughter to me now." I felt a chill run down my spine. Carol's compliments were never sincere, they were always a prelude to an attack. I forced a tight smile and said, "That's very kind of you to say, Carol." She continued, dabbing her lips with a perfectly creased napkin. "Family should be built on trust and transparency. No secrets, right?" My stomach tightened. I knew what was coming. Ethan, oblivious, nodded in agreement. "Of course, Mom. We all trust each other." Carol cooed, still looking at me. "There's something I've been meaning to ask you, Deborah. It's about family security." I put my fork down, my appetite gone. The air grew heavy, and the only sound was Henry's knife against his plate. "What is it, Carol?" I asked, my voice betraying a slight tremor. She leaned forward, with a fake look of concern. "With all the scams these days, I worry. Ethan is my only son, and you're his whole world. I think it would be best if I had the PIN code to your phone." The silence that followed was deafening. I looked at Ethan, expecting him to defend me, but he just sat there, looking uncomfortable. Henry suddenly seemed very interested in the ceiling. I whispered, "I'm sorry, what?" Carol repeated, her voice smooth as silk, "Your PIN code, dear. It's a simple gesture of trust. A decent girl has nothing to hide." I realized then that this wasn't about security, it was about control. Carol wanted to strip away my last bit of privacy. I was angry, but I also felt trapped. Ethan and Henry were looking at their plates, leaving me to face Carol alone. Saying no would only confirm her suspicions in her warped mind. "Mom, I don't think that's necessary," Ethan mumbled weakly. Carol snapped, "Nonsense, Ethan. This is about principle. If Deborah is truly part of this family, she won't have a problem with it. It's just 4 numbers." She smiled that cold, sharp smile. "So, Deborah, what's your PIN?" In that moment, something inside me broke. I was done being tested and judged. I took a slow sip of water and set the glass down. I looked Carol in the eye and said, "You're absolutely right, Carol. A family should have no secrets. You can have my PIN, but on one condition." Carol's triumphant smirk wavered. She hadn't expected me to negotiate. "A condition?" she asked, her voice dangerously sweet. I leaned forward, mirroring her posture. "We make this a true family policy. You give me the PIN to your phone, Henry gives me his, and Ethan gives me his too. Everyone should have each other's." Henry actually choked on a piece of food. Carol's face turned pale. "That's not the same thing at all," she stammered. "Why not?" I asked, genuinely curious. I opened my phone and showed her my PIN. "There, I've taken the first step. Now it's your turn. A decent family has nothing to hide, right?" Carol was furious. I am your mother-in-law. I'm concerned about my son's welfare. I countered, and I'm your daughter-in-law, and I'm concerned about the family's welfare. You could have a secret debt or be blackmailed. If Ethan and I are building a future, we need to know the family foundation is secure. I want your online banking logins and investment portfolio details too. Carol hissed, "You're being disrespectful." I turned to Ethan. Ethan, is it disrespectful to apply your mother's rules of trust equally? Am I the only one who has to prove I'm decent? Ethan looked like he wanted to disappear. He pleaded, "Mom, let's drop it." It was a bad idea. I was firm. No, we're not dropping it. Your mother accused me of being untrustworthy in front of you. Either we all follow these new rules, or she apologizes. Carol shrieked, "Apologize? I'm trying to protect my son from a secretive woman." I'd had enough. I stood up and said to Ethan, "You have 60 seconds to decide. Walk out this door with me, or stay with your mother. If you stay, don't come home. I'm changing the locks." The next 60 seconds were the longest of my life. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall was like a hammer blow to my resolve. Ethan was silent. Carol hissed, "Don't let her manipulate you." I heard a chair move, and my heart leaped. But it was just Ethan's weak voice saying, "Mom, please. Deborah, come back to the table. Let's not make a scene." I knew then that I had married a boy, not a man. Carol threatened, "If you walk out that door, you're no longer part of this family." I replied, "Good. Your family is a cage, and you're the keeper. I'm leaving." I walked out of the house, got in my car, and drove away. Tears of anger streamed down my face. As I drove, my phone buzzed with Ethan's panicked messages, but I ignored them. When I got home, I felt a strange sense of calm. I started to arrange for a locksmith to change the locks. Then, an email from Henry popped up. The subject was proof. Curious, I opened it and found a password-protected PDF. A text message with the password followed. I opened the document. It was a bank statement from 6 years ago, showing large withdrawals to a rehabilitation center. The account was Carol's. It dawned on me that Carol had a secret past, perhaps a prescription pill addiction after a botched surgery, as I later found out. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was too early for the locksmith. I peeked through the peephole and saw Ethan, looking pale and desperate. "Deborah, let me in." "I'm sorry," he called. I said, "You chose her. That's all I need to know." He kept pleading, but I was firm. Then I heard the jingle of keys. He had his own key. I tried to lock the deadbolt, but it was too late. The door opened, but it wasn't Ethan. It was Carol, looking disheveled and enraged. "You think you can destroy my family?" she hissed. I stood my ground. "You destroyed your own family, Carol. I'm just showing the truth." I walked towards my laptop, where the bank statement was still open. "Let's talk about your stay at the rehabilitation center, shall we?" Carol's face went white. Ethan looked completely confused. "What are you talking about?" he asked. Carol recovered quickly and turned furious. "How do you know that?" she whispered venomously. She then reached into her purse and threw a thick manila envelope on the table. "Let's talk about your secrets. Open it." I was nervous but walked to the table. Inside were photos of my college days, me as the lead singer of a goth rock band, at protests, and at a Halloween party. Carol sneered, "Not so decent now, are you? What would our friends think?" I started to laugh. "This is your trump card? These are just memories of my college life. The only disgrace here is you, hiring a private investigator to find dirt on me because you can't stand me being happy with Ethan." Ethan looked at the photos and a small smile touched his lips. "I always knew you were a rock star," he said. Then he finally found his spine and stepped away from Carol. Mom, you hired someone to follow my wife and brought this garbage into our home. You're trying to blackmail her. You're in the wrong. He turned to me, his eyes full of regret. Deborah, I'm so sorry. I should have stood up to her years ago. I said, an apology can't undo tonight. I then showed Carol the bank statement. This is your real secret, Carol. What were you so afraid of? Carol stared at the screen, and her face crumbled. She broke down in sobs. In the end, I did change the locks, but I didn't throw Ethan out. We started therapy, both individually and as a couple. It's been a long and difficult process. Ethan has learned to set boundaries with Carol, and I'm still trying to learn if I can trust him again. Carol has admitted her prescription pill addiction, and Ethan visits her on his terms. Sunday dinners are a thing of the past, and Henry sometimes calls to thank me. It's been a year and we're still working on it, but I'm starting to believe that we can make it.